Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the team of the top 3 top performers for the Open Great League. This is not the normal ranking that you know from like PvPoke, but there's also always like an analysis tab for PvPoke where you can see like the normal 3 metas like Great League, Ultra League as well as Monster League, in which Pokemon are currently performing pretty well in those. And here we're going to take a look at the top 3 of them. One of them is going to be the Shadow Dragonair, which is currently the number 1 of it. We're going to have the Carbink here as well as the Shadow Poliwrath. All of those Pokemon are very meta Pokemon, of course, and I have to say sometimes the games I didn't really play too perfectly fine, but we actually had a great win streak with this team. Like, it was a really strong team to use. As you can see already, the first opponent already decides to forfeit. Next opponent coming through, let's see what they're going to run. We're going to have a Gligar in the lead. This team, of course, is going to have some issues because it's not the team that I actually built. It was like literally just the top 3 Pokemon that are currently performing well in the Open Great League. And still, this team was super strong because, yes, those Pokemon are actually good at performing in the Open Great League. What a surprise. So, you're going to have here the lead of the Dragonair. You might actually think that, okay, it would be a little bit smart to use Carbink lead, stay top of the Dragonair and the Poliwrath in the back, which I can kind of get behind as well. But I didn't really want to have a double weakness basically of my lead as well as my Pokemon in the back against Lantern. Lantern is very common, a little bit more common than other fairy type Pokemon, which would be a little bit of an issue with this team as well. Especially Azumarill going to be a little bit of a trickier one. But even against Azumarill, we had a great team, like a great run against it, which you're going to see as well later on. This was actually my favorite game against the Azumarill before. But we're going to see it here as well. We're going to have the Gligar against us, which is going to be also a tricky one to deal with. But still, Carbink's defense is just insane. We're going to see the dig coming through. We're going to do a ton of damage. You can let the next move go through. We're going to actually use a shield here because it's going to be another dig and we can get off the rock side. This is going to get them insanely low that our Dragonair would be able to just win this game as the opponent decides to, yeah, let it go. Next opponent coming through, let's see what they're going to run. Also, this is going to be the final video before the new year, so happy new year to everyone. And maybe I already hit these 70,000 subscribers, but if I didn't, feel free to subscribe to the channel as well. We are super close. I really would like to hit 70,000 before this year ends, would be really cool for me. But yeah, we're going to take a look here at the next opponent. We're going to see the Skarmory matchup against the Poliwrath, which is actually really decent for the Poliwrath, as we can just use a shield. We're going to be able to just farm them down with counter, get a ton of energy, get the realignment, get most likely debuff against whatever wants to come back in because you have the Icy Wind now on this Pokemon, which is going to be insane. But we're actually going to go for the Scald, which is in my opinion a mistake for me because I could have just went for Icy Wind, guarantee the debuff. I get the debuff here, which is kind of nice. But yeah, the opponent makes a great play here, catching the move onto the Dragonair, trying to get rid of the energy of my Pokemon, which is kind of smart of course, but I can still go into my Dragonair, go for Body Slam, get the final shield of the opponent. I can let this next move go through. It's going to be the Mud Bomb, and they can definitely still get to some moves against our Carbink, but I feel like Carbink is just too bulky. Like, this Pokemon is going to be able to tank any kind of move. Scald doesn't even do half. They're gonna get the attack drop immediately, which is kind of scary to be fair. They're gonna go for another charge move here. It's going to be another Scald. We're gonna use the shield again. They're gonna get, of course, another attack drop, but we can still reach the Moonblast. And even with the 2 attack drops, it's going to be enough to knock them out. And we can move on to the next game. Actually, finding that wasn't enough to knock them out, we needed one more fast move. But yeah, let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have the Toxapex, which is a decent Pokemon for us to deal with. But here we're going to see the swap out immediately into the Vigoroth, which he can counter with our Poliwrath. Poliwrath wins us in a zero shield scenario pretty easily with an Icy Wind, which is going to be kind of nice. So we're going to just go for the safe play, go for the Icy Wind. We still should be able to reach an Icy Wind against the Toxapex as well, making the matchup a little bit easier for the other Pokemon later on. So we can just swap immediately into our Dragonair, which only gets like neutral damage from everything. Of course, with Shadow Side, decide to use a shield against a potential Sludge Wave. And you're gonna see that the opponent swaps out into the Obstagoon, which gets kind of walled by the Carbink. Obstagoon is a very rare Pokemon to see right now. Actually, something I kind of want to try out again because the amount of Lickitung that are around is kind of wild. So I kind of want to try to take advantage of this. But as you can see, the opponent is going to go for a Cross Chop. Cross Chop is coming through, going to do next to no damage. I can go for the Rock Slide. This is going to be able to get them insanely low as well. We can just go for the full farm down. And as we see here, this matchup is like so good for me. Like, there's nothing the opponent can really do about it. They don't even, oh, they actually get me into the red health, which is kind of wild. But I can just go for one Rock Slide. Rock Slide is gonna do some neutral damage, and they of course want to avoid it with a shield. I still have a shield left, and the opponent decides to forfeit. Next opponent, we're going to have most likely the worst possible Pokemon to encounter for this team, especially like this, where the opponent makes honestly a great play here. I should have went for the exact same thing that the opponent does here, because I went for the Icy Wind, which is going to guarantee the debuff. And if the shield anyway, it doesn't really matter what you're going to go for. So Icy Wind is actually most likely the better match, or like the better game plan for the mirror for Shadow Poliwrath. didn't really play this out correctly here, and also I have to now use a shield against the opponent's Poliwrath with my Carbink because I can go for a Scald, and they are not gonna get the attack drop, so at least not punished for this mistake. But as you're gonna see here as well, the opponent is gonna go ahead and let's see, they're gonna go into a Swampert. That's kind of awkward for us, and so this is going to be a very tough matchup for us to deal with. We can still go for the awkward here. Awkward here is coming through, going to do some okay damage, but the opponent is not forced to shield anything. The opponent is going to still be able to get to the Sky Attack fairly fast, so it's not really ideal for us either. I can still go for the awkward tail here, which is going to do some solid damage. Not the craziest amount, but definitely some solid damage. As we will see that the opponent goes to their own Sky Attack. Sky Attack is gonna get the knockout against me, and we see our Carbink struggling a lot with the fast move. I actually have not seen yet the Steel Wings against like basically our Carbink here before, so I was kind of surprised on how much it actually did. I thought it was doing a little bit less because we of course have an insane defense stat, but yeah, it's not going to be enough to win this game. It was still actually kind of close for being kind of hard-walled, but let's move on to the next one. Next opponent. Actually a great lead, I would say. We're going to lose it in the Zero Shield most likely because they definitely win the CMP tie, but we can just go for the full farm down, which is kind of more worth it in my opinion. But also we can align our Pokemon, which is going to be very nice. As the opponent is going to have here the Medicham in the back. What I decided to go for is I just decided to go for some body stamps. We are debuffed, but we're still going to do some decent damage, and if we're going to get them low enough that I can just rock throw them down, I'm going to be kind of happy about it. The opponent decides to use a shield, which is also totally okay for me, as I still have to go into my Carbink, which can take any kind of charge move. They have Psychic still, which in my opinion is a little bit of a mistake. Psychic is like so bad now. The Dynamic Punch is clearly better in my opinion, but still some people still want to stick with the Psychic. Don't think it's really the ideal play for it, but here we can see we can still go for the Rock Slide against the opponent. They're going to use a shield again, and I don't really care too much about it. I can just let this move go through. I can still go for a Rock Slide. Now I have a shield advantage, I have switch advantage, I have everything basically. The opponent is going to go into that Dugong. I can swap out into my Poliwrath, and honestly, Galvantula cannot do anything. The Dugong cannot do anything. I still have a shield left. Like, what is the opponent really gonna do here? I can just go for the counter down. I can go for a Scald. I can use a shield here to do more counter damage. There's not a lot that the opponent can really do here. I'm gonna go for my Scald now, which is maybe gonna do enough damage, maybe not, but I will be able to win this game pretty easily here with one more counter, and this is going to be it for this one. Next opponent coming through, we're going to have a Lickitung in the lead, which is going to be okay for us, but not really ideal, because we're going to swap out here. We're going to have a little bit of better matchups in the back. I decided to use a shield here, I think. No, actually I don't, because it's just a body slam. The opponent swaps out into the Wish Cast, as I can go for a Scald. Not sure if this is going to be the right call as well. Scald is going to get shielded from the opponent, as they're not going to get the attack drop, which is kind of awkward. But as long as you're going to get the attack drop for the next one, I think we're going to be okay. Like, attack drop would be really, really nice here, because our Dragonair is going to struggle a little bit otherwise well, so we're gonna go for another Scald, and we're not gonna get another attack drop, which is kind of wild. So like 2 moves off already, and both of them didn't get the attack drop, and now the opponent can just outspeed me, which was a little bit of a misplaced shield, I would guess, as I still going to have to go into my Dragonair. Dragonair can go for the full farm down, but it's not really looking too bright for us. We will see the charge move coming through. The Mud Bomb is going to do half of our health basically, as we can go for the full farm down. We can swap out. They're going to have the Poliwrath in the back, and honestly, it's still kind of worth shouting out here, because the opponent makes actually an interesting play, which I didn't really think about, but is actually working out pretty well. I guess they are running their Poliwrath for a little bit longer, because I went for the Icy Wind here. And the Icy Wind will allow them to easily survive the Moonblast, and so much that you're going to be able to just go for another charge move. So maybe for exactly this scenario, your normal Poliwrath is a little bit better than the Shadow variant, because Shadow variant would have been down like long ago basically. And so our Dragonair sadly is not going to have the greatest time against the Lickitung, even though it's going to look like it's really close here. I think the opponent had the move like early on for sure. But yeah, this is going to be it for this game. Good game to the opponent, well played there with the Poliwrath. Next opponent, we're going to have here a horrific lead. I'm actually forced to swap out into the Carbink, because this is like the worst possible lead that you could encounter for this team. It is actually a smart idea currently to run Sandslash in the lead, but as you can see here, the opponent swapping out into the Poliwrath. I can go for the Moonblast. Should have most likely went for the Rock Slide. Like, Rock Slide would have been smarter, because it's going to still force the opponent to go for a charge move, and a little bit earlier most likely as well. So this was not really perfectly played by me. Icy Wind is coming through, but again, we're kind of in a tough spot right now. We can go most likely still for a Body Slam before they can go for another charge move. They should need 7 counters basically to go for the Icy Wind, as we can go for the Body Slam, gonna get the knockout against the opponent. I can swap out again, and here I find it a little bit interesting. I'm going to use a shield here on the first foul play because I know, okay, foul play is going to be resisted, but I can still go for a charge move before, which can debuff them. And I decide to go for the bait. And I find it wild that they decide to no-shield this one. Maybe they would have been able to still get to a move that would knock me out with the Sand Slash, but I found it very, very risky with this. Of course, with a no-shield, I'm going to lose this game guaranteed, but that was a little bit of a risky one, but good game there. Next opponent, Guzzlord in the lead. I decided to swap out here. Both of our Pokemon in the back are going to be great against Guzzlord, and as you can see here, we're going to get all the Tentacruel. And I have to say, I don't know if it's the same for you, my game is pretty laggy in the recent days. Like, I even had a day that my game completely froze, which was wild, so like, my game just completely closed itself and I couldn't really do anything even though I was in a super hard ring matchup. So yeah, like currently the game is really broken. Hopefully it's just because over like those holidays basically the Niantic employees are not really there to fix the issues, but currently like the game is super bad for me. Don't know if it's the same for you, let me know in the comment section. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, would really appreciate it. We are so close to the 70,000 subscribers at the point of recording here, which is just before New Year for me. You're just like, I don't know, 50 off or something, so feel free to subscribe. Super close, would really appreciate it, as we're going to see here now the matchup against Azumarill. And I think this was the matchup which I enjoyed the most. I feel like this was one of the best games I've ever played. You're going to see here the Rockside coming through, gonna get the shield from the opponent. We will be able to just go for another charge move here. Rockside is going to do a little bit of damage, but we're in such a bad position. Azumarill breaks actually the entire team. Poliwrath can still deal with it in the two shield scenario kinda, but it's not really ideal. But what you just saw there is, I waited one turn before swapping out, and then went for the charge move on a charge move priority basically. So I was able to catch the Poliwrath from the opponent, get rid of my one Pokemon. Here we're going to see the Guzzlord coming back in the back, and it's still going to not be over at this point. But what we were able to do here is basically give us our only chance of winning this game, like waiting out one turn, then going for a CMP tie with the Dragonair to basically catch the move and get rid of the opponent's energy while doing some damage against them was so crucial. As you're gonna see here, the opponent is going to still be able to go for a crunch. I can go for the Rock Slide. Rock Slide is gonna connect and going to be able to not knock them out yet, but 2 more fast moves is enough. Can we still farm them down in time? We can barely win this game. This was such an important play by me, which honestly was my favorite one of those games. We're going to see here next the Lantern in the lead and the safe stop of the Charger Bug. And there's going to be, I think that's most likely this game, where I just randomly use a shield onto my Charger, onto my Carbink or whatever, because I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, exactly this one. I'm not silly. I know that this is not a move that you have to shield, and the opponent most likely was like wondering why. I was just looking at the TV basically at the same time as my girlfriend was shiny hunting in like what's called Scarlet Violet, and I was like looking if there was a shiny, and so yeah, I was using my shield, and this was my own mistake. But maybe we can still come back from this, which of course makes it a little bit more awkward. We saw here the Lantern having Water Gun. This is the reason why I swapped out here, because I know that my Poliwrath is still going to be decent. And as I went for the Charger Bug Say-Stop, I was kinda sure they're going to have something weak against Carbink in the back, and it's going to be the Altaria, allowing us to basically align our Pokemon again, which is going to be important for us. But it's still not over, because I did use that shield, which I never should have used in the first place. But I can still go ahead and go for the full farm down here with my Carbink, and we can still try to go for a Rock Slide, and we can barely reach this in time. This might be important, it might not be, we will find out shortly. It is not important, because we're going to be forced to go for the full farm down here anyway. Luckily, they go straight for the Thunderbolt, and so we're gonna be able to win this game, even though we nearly screwed it up. And that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to play this team. Can actually recommend it to you. It's going to have a weakness against Azumarill, but otherwise it's actually fairly solid. But yeah, that's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.